Hey, it's Jake Mace with Phoenix Longevity Arts. For over 20 years, we've been teaching Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong classes to people in the Phoenix area from all walks of life. We got students, we got teachers, we got CEOs, we got minimum wage workers, we've got the poor, the middle class, and the affluent. We've got firefighters and police, we've got entrepreneurs right alongside office workers, we got engineers and retirees, we even got classes for kids. When these people get involved in classes at my Tempe, Phoenix area school, they think that they're joining a school to learn techniques for self-defense, maybe get in better shape and have fun doing it at the same time. And they get all this, but what so many of them quickly learn is that they're brought into a microculture of so much more. When you train Kung Fu at my school, Phoenix Longevity Arts, you advance through ranks. Advancement is free, but the belt ranks take hard work and organize our material and techniques really well. Without even realizing it, by the time you reach brown belt, especially black belt, you've learned traditional Kung Fu for self-defense, and so many of my black and brown belts say they're in the best shape of their life. At the very least, they're in the best shape they've been in for years. However, because of the microculture climate we all train in every class, you get the benefit of all your classmates' skills above and beyond the Kung Fu and the Tai Chi. For me, these skills have culminated themselves into several categories that I consider to be my Kung Fu health insurance. There's so much talk about ObamaCare, and especially the upcoming health insurance mandates requiring us Americans to pay for health insurance or face a penalty. Some even call this a new tax. Just yesterday, someone sent me a statement about the new health insurance policy that said, let me get this straight. We're going to be gifted with a health care plan we are forced to purchase and fined if we don't, which purportedly covers at least 10 million more people without adding a single new doctor, but provides for 16,000 new IRS agents. It's written by a committee whose chairman says he doesn't even understand it. Passed by a Congress that probably didn't read all of it, but exempted themselves from it, and signed by a president who smokes, with funding administered by a treasury chief who in the past didn't pay his taxes, for which will be taxed for 4 years before any benefits will take effect, by a government that has already bankrupted Social Security and Medicare, all to be overseen by a Surgeon General who's obese, and financed by a country that's broke. Now, I don't know who actually said this, and there are so many things that I can't sort out about the issue of Obamacare. Maybe I'm just not articulate enough, or maybe I'm not involved enough, and I'm definitely not educated enough, and or experienced enough to know everything about this bill, or its implications, its details, or its effects. But I do know that anything in life is possible. Great health or great pain. I believe there are 5 laws of living on earth. These aren't laws that are passed by human beings, but they're laws of nature, and they're laws that I live by. Number 1 law is the law of health. And that to me means being in the best shape you can possibly be in 100% of the time. And we just have to stop making excuses for why we're not in good shape. We've got to go for it. We've got to put those running shoes next to our bed, and first thing in the morning we got to go for it. We got to do those push-ups and walk that mile and do something to get our body going, because we are creatures that must move, and you have to move every day, multiple times a day. Most of us go to the gym for that, but it could be any kind of movement, especially first thing in the morning and last thing before bed. And that's what our classes are all about. Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong are arts of movement. They serve to bring together the breath, the body, and the mind to one unit. Law number 2 is the law of relationships. Whether it's romantic or social, we need intimate, healthy interaction with other people. I'm a big advocate of this. Number 3 is the law of family, and this doesn't mean having kids. Lord knows the earth is so overpopulated. You aren't necessarily better by having dozens and dozens of kids. But it does mean having some sort of a family bond, all right? It could be a bond with your blood relatives or with friends. And it's just about being a positive, active member of whatever that bond means to you in your life. Law number 4 is the law of financial success. And this does not mean make as much money as you possibly can, but it does mean there are some things that money is required for, such as getting food, getting clothing, getting medicine, transportation, and also recreation. And I do a lot of this by, since I'm not very wealthy, I do a lot of this by growing my own food in my garden. Riding my bicycle over 30 miles a day is my sole form of transportation. I've given up my car for about almost the last year. And I love hiking Arizona's amazing forests and trails, and that way I get to experience nature, but close to home, where I'm not having to use all these carbon emissions to get to somewhere. I can really just go an hour away or an hour and a half away and experience some of the most wonderful trails and wonderful parts of nature that the whole earth has to offer. Arizona's a mecca in the forest department. You may not think so. You may think it's a desert, but you have yet to experience more of Arizona. Law number 5 is the law of goal attainment. Because without goals, we're dead, right? These goals have to obey, for me, the first 4 laws, okay? I have to achieve goals that are healthy for myself and for those around me, and that lift everyone up to a new evolved human status. These are the 5 laws that I live by. I don't care whether you have insurance or not at this point. Since I became 18 years old and became an adult, before that I was susceptible to my parents, right? But now I'm responsible for myself. And my goal has been since that time to never give a visit or to give any business at all to a doctor. I avoid their office like the plague. Don't get me wrong, I love doctors. I have half a dozen MDs that are some of the best people in my life. Doctors are, in my opinion, one of those essential occupations on the planet whose skills can dramatically improve our life and the quality of that life. And I will always want to hang out and experience life with my doctor friends as friends. But one of the most verdant goals I have is to never be their customer or never be their patient. And I do this in the following ways. This can be called my Kung Fu health insurance. And whether you have insurance, regular insurance or not, it doesn't matter. These are things I do because I never want to have to rely on that health insurance. That is a last resort. Number 1 is fitness and exercise. All right, and I do this with Kung Fu, Tai Chi, and Qigong. Fitness and exercise is so vital because it is the number 1 way I prevent any kind of illness, pain, or any kind of need for a doctor. And even a lot of athletes aren't necessarily into fitness or exercise. Many athletes are into being the best at their sport, which a lot of times means intense injury and intense therapy and intense drug use, steroids, performance enhancers, anti-inflammatories, and the like. So my goal is not to be the best at running the 100-meter dash, but it's to be the best at fitness and exercise I can be every day and every minute of every day. The next part of Kung Fu health insurance is the diet. For me, it's a monk's diet. Like every aspect of the monastic life, the diet around Buddhism is centered on the ideals of pacifism, purity, and simplicity. One of the tenets of Buddhism is strict pacifism and not to inflict harm or suffering on any other living being. Now, I wouldn't call myself a Buddhist. I don't necessarily call myself anything in terms of any kind of religious doctrine or spirituality, but I am a very spiritual person. I do believe in respecting the quality of life. So for myself, that means a plant-based diet 100% of the time since I was, a teenager. And I do this in a very healthy way. I try to be as active and athletic as I can, and oftentimes I very rarely ever meet a meat eater who has more muscle, more physical ability, and more endurance than I do. I know they're out there, but you can be completely on plant-based diet. We use the term vegan. And I do this with the following athletic foods, things like seitan, right? A wheat-based product. We use tofu, we use nuts, we use seeds, we use almond milks and soy milks, we use legumes and beans and lentils and tempeh and spinach. You don't realize that a lot of vegetables like broccoli and spinach have more protein per pound per capita than beef. But you got to eat it, and you got to eat a lot of it. And the good thing about vegetables is that they're low in calories, but they fill you up and they're nutrient dense. And so my diet comes primarily out of my garden. I have a little under half an acre in urban Tempe, and I try to use that land to its maximum potential with trees and garden, that I actually just walk outside and I pick my food, and that way it's in its most healthy, potent, pure state. Okay, so for me, that's what my diet means. Now, the other thing I do is, part of my insurance plan, is herbs. Okay, it doesn't mean smoking marijuana every single day. It means that herbs are very powerful superfoods. They have a lot of antioxidants and other kinds of healthy, beneficial nutrients and other things that we don't even know about yet. So herbs that I grow right now, it's summertime in Arizona, and I'm still growing things like basil. And I have like 4 or 5 different kinds of basil, different colors, purples and greens. And that way I get antioxidants, colored antioxidants. I do chamomile. I make my own chamomile tea, very relaxing tea, right out of my garden, little white flowers with a little yellow center. I do parsley and cilantro or coriander. I do stevia and garlic. I do oregano, mint, echinacea, and chives right out of my garden. These are things that I do. I add to all my foods and recipes to really just give myself that punch I need in the diet department. The next area I do for my insurance plan is bone strength. In Kung Fu, we do so much training that it strengthens the bones. And I'm 30 years old, and it's hard for me to be someone who lectures people that are older than me. So I use examples of my students. And I got students who are in their 60s that get their bone density measured at their doctor's office. And what they do is, they sometimes tell me that when they start training Kung Fu at my school, their bone density is sometimes 10, 20, 30 years older than what they actually are. And so this is terrible. But what they tell me is that after a few years of training, that it's an amazing thing. The bone density of some of my students, one of them was a 6-year-old, and she started with the bone density of someone in their 80s. And now she's 5 years older, and she has the bone density of someone in their 20s. Okay, the bones have toughened and thickened up because the bones can grow if you put them through weight-bearing stress. And we do this in the form of punches and kicks, snapping explosive movements, as well as our iron bone training, putting weight-bearing activities on the bones until they grow denser and stronger so that we can look normal, but literally have thicker, stronger bones. And so in Kung Fu, the term, I'm not fat, I'm just big boned, is kind of true. Hopefully we're athletic and big boned and we get the best of both worlds. The next area of my Kung Fu health insurance plan is awareness training through fighting. At my school, we try to fight and spar in such a controlled environment that no one gets injured. At the same time, we grow our awareness. And what this means is being able to see and anticipate harmful things before they're brought to your doorstep. And so in the fight, we don't want to get punched, kicked, submitted, arm locked, broken, or slammed, or submitted on the ground. All right? But in life, it's even worse than that. People think that I fight because I like to fight and I like to spar people, and that's true. But the #1 reason that I enjoy sparring and I enjoy Kung Fu is not for the fighting, it's for the fight when I'm out there, when I'm experiencing life, when I'm on my bike and there's cars all over the place, when I'm in traffic and there's people walking all around, when I'm out in a social situation and I'm trying to avoid a confrontation. There's so many areas of life that 100% of the day, of my day, is spent trying to avoid the accidents. All right, it's in my home, because most accidents happen in your home. It's being safe when I'm doing things on a ladder, or learning how to fall properly so that I never have that moment where I break my hip when I'm older and I fall. I got students that do Tai Chi with me and they're 60 years and up because they don't want to fall at home. They're afraid of this. And what happens is they train Tai Chi and Qigong, their balance improves, and their whole life changes because now they're more independent. They don't think, when's the fall coming? They know how to walk, they know how to step, they know how to anticipate the fall and avoid it. And so Kung Fu's #1 attribute to me, direct attribute, is the ability to have awareness. And for me, Tai Chi, Bagua, and the internal skills of Chinese Kung Fu are one of the best things we can do to increase our awareness and avoid the accidental injuries we might sustain just by living life. The next area we talk about when we talk about Kung Fu health insurance is having goals. A lot of times when you're active, you tend to get caught up in the activity and you don't get caught up in any kind of need for doctors, medications, prescriptions, or healing. And so having goals is so important with life. I just did a 3-day, 2-night hike over 25 miles in the Coconino National Forest, Coconino up north in Arizona. And it was at Wet Beaver Creek, and it was such an intense hike. It was 10 hours plus a day of hiking, and I had to really take my time with each step, being athletic. But these are things I do, and I come back refreshed, and I just feel like everything else in my life becomes simpler and easier because of these difficult and inspiring goals, hikes, trips that I go on a lot of times with my best friends. The next thing is Qigong every single day. This is one of the most important areas of life because things like yoga, meditation, and Qigong are the activities that give us mindfulness. When I used to golf professionally, we talked about mindfulness in golfing. We talked about the ability to put your mind into every single step. My mental coach, his name was Jim, and Jim told me a couple different times that the golfer Ben Hogan used to tie his shoes 3 times slower the morning of a tournament just to make sure that he was putting his mind into the simplest activity. He would eat his cereal 3 times slower just to experience every single bite and not to take any movement for granted. What he found was that kind of mindfulness transitioned its way onto the golf course, and he was able to hit shots with so much more precision, accuracy, and ability. So I would say do Qigong and meditation to contemplate your place on the earth and to contemplate your body's vital functions and to really start a relationship with yourself, because more than your husband or wife, more than your girlfriend, boyfriend, or your family, you are the most important part of your life every single day. And if your relationship with yourself is broken, you've got a lot of other crap to worry about. And meditation and Qigong is the way that we build that relationship with ourselves so that we're comfortable in our own skin from morning till night and even when we sleep. The next area I talk about is superfoods. Okay, and Kung Fu inspired me to increase my diet, superfoods, herbs, things like this, because the monks have so many stories of how they try to heighten their enlightenment through use of things like superfoods. Things like walnuts, avocados, wheatgrass shots, kale. Wheatgrass is one of the healthiest things you can do. I grow it myself in trays at my home here, and I have my wheatgrass juicer that I try to do 4 to 10 ounces of wheatgrass a day. These kind of superfoods, things like goji berries. I have a goji berry bush outside that I harvest fresh goji berries off of when they're in season. These superfoods are the ways that I ward off sickness and I keep my body in tip-top shape. And I know I want to constantly have this high level of fitness and never to let it drop. And I do this with superfoods. And a lot of times I do my superfoods in a smoothie, morning smoothie. If you go on our YouTube channel and in the search box type in the Kung Fu Warrior smoothie, that's my ultimate smoothie for athleticism, health, and longevity. It has tons of kale and fruit and chia seed and omega-3 fatty acids and blah, 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 blah. Go check it out on our YouTube channel, the Kung Fu Warrior smoothie. And some things that I do for the Kung Fu insurance plan it should be a no-brainer, but for a lot of people it's the most difficult thing in life, and that's the 2 things are not smoking and not getting drunk. Okay, I can't tell you how many of my students have had to fight and use their Kung Fu because they or somebody else around them was drunk. Getting away from people who are drunk and not getting drunk yourself, the #1 way you can avoid accidents and avoid confrontations and live a healthier life. It's also better for your organs, especially your liver and kidneys. I don't say avoid alcohol altogether. I've been known to have a glass of wine every now and then, but getting drunk is a way that you break that relationship with yourself and you become 2 different people, the drunk self and the sober self. And it's just no bueno for those around you. It's not good for your organs, and it's not good for your character. And smoking, do I really have to even say anything about smoking? I mean, for God's sakes, I have people in my life right now that started that were clean of smoking for years. My students, some of them, started smoking again later in life because they had stress. And for me, I'm addicted to Qigong, meditation, and a good chamomile tea, not a cigarette. And I have some people in my life, though, that are the opposite. They get to be 40, 50 years old, and they break their habit of smoking, and it's amazing. Their whole life changes. So stop making excuses. My biggest thing with my family is, everybody in my family, I hear them say so much, is, I'm working on quitting. I'm going to quit. Well, that's great. You've been telling me that for over a decade. Quit. Do it now, and do it today. All right? These are the best things I can tell you about my insurance plan. The other thing I do is, back in November, I gave up my car, and I've been riding my bicycle everywhere I go. People go, well, your insurance plan's no good because you get hit by a car. And I often say to them, well, I can be hit by a meteorite as well. Okay? But as far as my opinion goes, when I'm in a car on the street driving, I'm more susceptible to an accident and to getting injured than when I'm on my bike, because my bike doesn't have to deal with as many cars as a car does on the street. I oftentimes ride my bike through neighborhoods where the traffic is very low. I have my own bike path most of the time where the cars aren't even an issue. I'm getting healthy at the same time. I'm learning to live in my environment. My body adjusts with the temperature better. I'm getting better health benefits. I'm having fun. I go to teach Kung Fu and Tai Chi classes, and I show up for class already with my blood flowing. My mind is going a mile a minute. I'm already ready to improve all my students' lives because I rode my bike and I got those juices flowing. It's the best way I can do. The best way I can tell you to improve your life is to be more active, especially during your transportation to and from different activities. So I ride my bike about 30 miles each day. That's just me. Now, to sum up, I don't know what you guys think about Obamacare and the healthcare situation. What I would say is, please give me your comments below, and let's get a dialogue going about this thing, because I don't like the situation of me being forced to pay for medical insurance that I'm not even going to be using. Now, there's always that chance I might need to use it, but I'm going to make you a bet right now. Let's see, I'm 30 years old. I bet you that I outlive you all watching, and I still haven't used that medical insurance, and we'll see if I'm right. That's my goal anyways. I was recently in front of a federal judge a few months back, and that's a whole other story. And this federal judge was talking to me, and I told him, I go, listen, we are all connected in the great circle of life. If you have a heart attack at the age of 45, 55, or 65, and I'm living a plant-based, healthy, fitness, crazy, athletic lifestyle without ever seeing a doctor, your heart attack influences my life because everybody's health insurance goes up as a result. So by me trying to help you get healthier, it's helping me live better at the same time. And he sat back and he goes, wow, he goes, I need to start learning some of that Kung Fu shit. And we all had a nice laugh about that. And that's true. We are all connected. So by me making these videos, I'm trying to be inspiring through my example. And the best way I know to do that is to live by the laws of the land, but at the same time, not be a slave to those laws. And I hope that you are like me and you will never, never, never give in to prescription drugs, seeing a doctor, or going to the hospital as the norm. Those are there for extreme situations that can be avoided. And I avoid them with my herbs, my diet, my fitness, my meditation, and my friends and my goals. I hope you do the same thing. This is Jake and Mace with Phoenix Longevity Arts. Thanks for watching this long-winded video, and we'll see you next time for more Kung Fu and Tai Chi lessons at our channel here called the Shaolin Center.